Man, it just warms the heart. We got 4 screens in front of me and 4 mostly happy faces. A couple of them are in a food coma, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point over the course of this podcast. This is the Bite Me Podcast. Glad to have everybody back. Captain Dean, smiling, rubbing his belly. Captain Caleb, half awake, rubbing his belly. Captain Scott, what the heck is Captain Scott doing here, man? It's been more than 3 weeks. We'll get into that in just a minute because I know a lot of the listeners are just kind of curious on updates, man. We're all outdoorsmen. Certainly, we're all interested in everything that has happened down in the hill country, and Scott is the man to talk to. But just a couple little things to get out of the way. We got a lot of great topics. Offshore, nearshore, jetty fishing. Yes or no? Well, we've had a big time yes, and we've had a big time no, it seems like, in the last couple of days. So we'll get to that. Obviously, where they were, how they did, what they noticed, some water temp discussion. Louisiana came in with an interesting report that we're going to get to. But, of course, let's get to it after I remind you guys to don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and all that. Group page, 11,200 strong, and then some. So join the group page. And of course, you can go to the group page and find all kinds of interesting things. One little programming note here, and I promise I'm not hypersensitive, but I feel like there was a little bit of a discussion on the group page about ads on this podcast. And I just want to make very clear, I don't like a lot of ads either. I'm just like you. I really am. And so I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain before we get to Scott. And just for those who were wondering and saw the post, etc., I cannot control what the podcast platforms put on there. I wish I could. I already opted out, just like I said I would on the group page, because I opted out of the Podbean advertisements that they place. It doesn't amount to a whole lot of money. I'm talking maybe $20 or $30 a month, but I can't control what the podcast people put on there. I will say this podcast has become a monster. Everybody and we've said it multiple times, and maybe some of the guys will want to weigh in on this. Everybody that I put in there, I never put more than 2 commercials in a row, 2 30-second commercials. So if you can put up with a minute of our friends, these are our friends. These are people that we trust. We say it all the time. I have turned down a lot of people. One yesterday, in fact, that I didn't quite know the product. I didn't quite trust the product. So again, I'm not trying to be hypersensitive here. I'm just trying to explain. I think we do it 2 or 3 times over the course of the podcast where I put in the ads because these are our friends and people we trust. I drive a Freedom boat. I love Chet. I go to the boatyard for service. I love those guys. And I throw a baits reel. Down the list we go. Sawgrass rods. I really just love those things. And of course, our captains here, they have partnerships and friends that they trust. If it's on the podcast, there's a reason for it. The number one reason is we trust those products and we think you guys should be using those products. The number 2 reason, again, full disclosure, I can't do this. We can't do this podcast without the help of our friends and partners. So I wanted to get that out there because the feeding frenzy, I can't pay for 200 meals. I mean, I wish I could, but I can't pay for 200. I can't pay for 35, 40 tables and chairs, 10-person tables and chairs and signage and all that. So it's not poor me. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. If you can put up with 2 or 3 1-minute segments, which is like 4 and 5 minutes less than you get on TV or the radio, I think it's worth it. So I just wanted to explain that. I gave Caleb a hard time because he was pot licking on the ads earlier. I actually texted Scott. I always like to say stuff in front of the person that I said behind their back. So Caleb, I'm going to say it right here live on the air. I told Scott, hey, Caleb's pot licking. I would be more than happy to trade 1 month of what he gets out of the podcast for 1 month of what I get out of the podcast, because this is the only way that I make any money. I don't have trips. I'm not a captain. I'm not, I don't have my own partners and all that. So Caleb, I did say that, just full disclosure.
I would like to point out, however, that should people get more mentions by Captain Caleb, then when you trade, you'll get more of what I get out of 1 month of the podcast. So it's a win-win, John.
You are lying.
That's simple math, dude.
That's called. It's not simple math. That's Caleb math.
I bet Andrew was fishing, wasn't he? Was it Andrew? I bet it was.
I don't know, but these guys, I love them to death, and I didn't ever write down a business plan, but the business plan in my little noggin is, man, if Dean and Scott and Caleb can get a bleep ton of trips out of this, they'll be, in hog heaven. It'll help their businesses. It'll help their footprint. It'll help all their individual partners like Laguna and some of these others. And then I get what I can get from our partners that love having me do this podcast. So that's what we're doing. We just brought it all out public. I like to keep things public and transparent. I have with you guys from the very, very start. So there's that. Any comments on the whole clarity thing? Because there was a comment on the Facebook page about, hey, there's a lot of ads. It's not a lot of ads.
It's like my YouTube videos. The platform is going to plug the stuff in. We don't plug this stuff in. And like John said, it's not cheap to run this deal. And when the platform plugs that in and you listen to it, I think we get a nickel or something. We don't.
Yeah, I think my last was $29 for the month.
Yeah, and it costs $35 a month to host this thing and send it out to the stuff. It's the nature of the beast, folks.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what though?
Yeah.
And a lot of the ads are geared towards that particular user. So if you want them to be interesting, then Google more interesting stuff before you get on Bite Me. And
I hadn't thought of that.
And so how is it's geared towards the listeners? Kid you not? I was driving, listening to it. It was on the iPhone podcast platform, and there was a pop-up commercial comes in the middle for ladies lingerie.
It is what it is there.
Well, I mean, it's what you Google.
Mine is puppies. Hey, there's a puppy there. There's a kennel.
I mean, I was like, how? But so hey, I listened to it.
Well, when you show up to the Bite Me thing, you like to get the raffle for the boat, all that stuff. Jet, they don't do this stuff without us reciprocating.
Exactly.
It's simple. It's simple business. It's simple business.
It's simple business.
You know, when they're watching The View and y'all get like a bunch of commercials while you're watching
5 minutes. They get I do 3 1-minute things, and that's my design.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing? Scott, you have any thoughts on this before I get to you?
I don't know. We've talked 7.5 minutes about commercials.
That's a long commercial right there. Maybe you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to insert a commercial right here after I edit it. No, I'm not.
John, if it makes you feel better, not a damn person hit me up to buy some commercial space from me.
Oh, good. That does make me feel better. All right, let's get to some good stuff here. First of all, Scott, welcome back, man. You've heard us say thank you. You've heard us say, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it for 3 weeks. That's for dang sure. 3 weeks plus. You were down in the hill country. And the way I kind of wanted you to recap this is to talk to the Bite Me community. We're all interested in that. But to me, it was like the conflicting emotions would be incredible to me. And I kind of wanted you to start there and just kind of recap everything that you did down in the hill country. Where exactly were you again?
I was at Center Point.
That's what
between it's the center point between Comfort and Kerrville, and they weren't getting a lot of the state help and the federal help in that area. Mm-hmm. And their little y'all seen some of my posts on it. Their fire station there, the volunteer fire station, had 7 feet of water in it, and they had opened their doors to take all their vehicles out to go run flood calls. Before the flood got all the way up, they had some warning that it was coming. So they were all out stationing around. Well, every fire station you ever see, whenever the vehicles leave, they leave the doors open, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the floodwaters came through and washed everything out of the station, all their bunker gear, everything that they had in there, computers, everything went under 7 feet of water. I mean, it destroyed that station. So they were running on empty. I mean, we were running on generators there for, I don't know, like a week and a half until we finally got electricity back to that building and determined that it was safe to turn the electricity back on in there.
Yeah.
But, it was pretty devastating for that little area right there. We had about 14 miles of river that we were covering out of that station. And we actually poached into some of the other areas that weren't doing as much as we were. We had so many good crews. When it was all said and done, they showed me the totals of the registered. This is just the registered volunteers that showed up was 32,000 that showed up at that one little station. That's the ones that signed in. There was a whole bunch of people. I'd be out there working. I'd have people just wander up with chainsaws and say, "Hey man, can I help?"
Yeah.
Just joining in, whether they weren't registered, they hadn't gone by the fire station or anything. They just saw us out there working and came along and jumped in. I had guys with skid steers and mini X's just pull up on the trailer, offload them, and where can I go? What can I do?
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of directing traffic. The first few days I was on the skid steer. I mean, I was pumping it, 12, 14-hour days on the skid, had anywhere from 4 to 20 guys with chainsaws in front of me, cutting our way through the tangled mess, trying to pick things apart. And then eventually they gave me enough people and enough equipment that I couldn't even run my skid steer anymore because I was on the phone. At one point I took a little 2-minute conversation with somebody just to square something up. I looked down afterwards and I had 52 text messages from different crews, different ones working. Where do we need to go? What do we need to do? How we need chainsaw oil. We need chainsaw fuel. And so I was just kind of directing traffic through that part. And then it slowed down. We lost a lot of volunteers after, the first weekend. And well, the second weekend of it, I guess. We lost a lot of people after that. And things slowed down and it got more to where we were concentrating. We had cadaver dogs out there from all over the country. And anytime we get a cadaver dog hit, then we were kind of like just a small squad that would go out and start moving stuff for them. The cadaver dogs are hitting on these huge piles, and we would go out and dismantle the piles or get into a creek bed. That was the final one. That's the one that kept me there that last week. We had 13 dogs hitting this one creek. And they kept hitting in the same spot, and we kept looking. And we put divers in, we put equipment in there, we dug it out, we did everything we could think of. And my divers finally, sounds gross, they found some tissue in there. And you said something about the weirdness of it.
The conflicting emotions. The
conflicting emotions was, we're looking for somebody's relative, and we're looking for parts and pieces, just whatever. And it's almost like you don't want to find anybody, but you want to find them, And when we found those tissues, we had them sitting out not far from where we had recovered them, sitting out there waiting for somebody to come from the sheriff's office, pick them up, go run DNA tests on them and stuff. And we ran some more dogs down in there after we had picked that up, and the dogs had hit down in the creek. And we're talking about a creek that's got 40-foot tall sides that are about 45-degree angle or more. We had to build stairs. We used an excavator to build stairs down to the water to get the divers in. And we brought the dogs out, and, we'd only bring them in one at a time. And then the first dog we brought out ran straight to where that stuff was sitting in the shade under a deer stand and marked on it, on the tissue. So that's telling us it's more than likely human. And then we ran the second dog out of there, and it ran over there and grabbed the bag that I had it in Ziplocs, double Ziplocked. And the dog ran over there and grabbed the bag. And that's in double Ziploc bag up under a deer stand in the shade. And that dog ran probably 30, 45 yards straight to it. I mean, just immediately. So we turned all that in. I hadn't got any results. I hadn't heard anything, but they gave us case number and all that for Kerr County, and they're going to send it in for testing.
Yeah. Now, again, not to get too graphic or anything, and I hate using this word because it feels dirty just saying it, but what was your level of success in terms of finding, things?
I mean, we got everybody but 2 that are on the list. And we were feeling like that one of the 2 was in that creek that we were in. And that's what we were working towards. We ended up finally having to just call it because we did absolutely everything. We called it. That was one of the cool things that I could call and say, okay, I need this. I need a 50,000-pound excavator and an operator. Okay. Here it comes. It'd come pulling up, an hour or 2 later. Whatever we needed. Well, I needed an amphibious excavator.
Oh,
It's in
God.
Louisiana, and they go through the marsh and make the canals and stuff in the marsh, and it's basically a floating excavator. It's about 30,000, 40,000 pound excavator on floating tracks that look like oversized, I mean, just huge tracks that float. And they got ballast in them and all this stuff. They can pump them full of water and make them sit sideways and do all this. Pretty amazing piece of equipment. I don't know how much that some of it cost. They brought that thing in from Waco and drove it in overnight for us and parked it out there and said, "Okay, here we go."
Yeah.
And, we dug down. That creek was about you could almost walk on the stuff on the top that was floating. And then you had the divers going in there saying, "Okay, well, we got that, and then we got about a foot of water, and then we got sunken debris underneath that's about a foot and a half, and then we got about 2 feet of mud, and we feel something hard down at the bottom. Maybe it's clay, maybe it's rock." And I had the landowner there. That ranch has been in their family since the 1880s. And he said it's a spring-fed creek, and the bottom of it is solid limestone. None of that mud, none of that stuff was in there prior to this. So that's what we dug out with that amphibious. I spent 2 days digging and digging and digging. And every scoop, we'd run a dog on it and cart it up to the top. They put it out. I had firemen from Kansas City that were there, and they were spreading it all out and then running the dog on these. They'd put it on big tarps and just spread all that stuff out and then run the dog on it and try to find bits and pieces and all that. And it was just amazing the amount of work and the amount of manpower. I mean,
and human compassion.
Yeah.
You were telling me. Yeah, you were talking about the food you were getting, the housing, etc.
It was incredible that, like on that scene there, I had the Kansas City Fire Department. I had dogs from Virginia. I had dogs from Minnesota. I had dogs from, God, where was the other one? I forgot. It's the Carolinas. And they're all just coming out there, and everybody's bought in. It wasn't like, "Oh, we're going to work. We just got to do this." Every single person was like watching every scoop being taken out of there, just praying that it was, we were going to solve this mystery.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we got everything done at the end, and we weren't successful on that one.
Yeah. Well, we're going to promise we're going to get into more fishing discussions and regular bite me topics. I want Caleb and Dean, if they have anything to add before we move on, to add that. But I want to just say this real quick. We can't thank you enough. I know they can't thank you enough, but I'll add this. You can thank Scott. You can't thank him enough, but you can thank him, because I know for a fact that Scott's skid steer got beat to hell, broken, doesn't start anymore. I know for a fact that Scott's truck had a limb fall on it, busted up the entire front panel. I know for a fact that Scott, and this is just from conversations, Scott's not telling me any of this. This is just something I want to say. I know for a fact that he probably, I don't know if I can put a number on it, but thousands of dollars of trips that he passed to be able to do this. If I had to guess, I would say it would probably be in the $10,000 range. You were out basically between the truck and the skid steer and the trips you lost and everything else. So we're not the GoFundMe type people, but I will tell you this: if you have a business that knows people down there and can help, maybe throw my guy a bone, so to speak, to get the truck repaired and catch up on what he lost on the trips and the skid steer repaired. And I don't mean to embarrass you, Scott, but I'm saying it. Reach out to me, reach out to Caleb, reach out to Dean, hell, reach out to Scott. We've had some people that have owned skid steer, heavy equipment companies, sponsor the feeding frenzy. So that's what I want to add. And I don't know what Dean and Caleb want to do.
Go buy you some pictures at scottnoelphotography.com.
There you go. A lot of pictures.
There'd be a lot of pictures.
A lot of pictures.
Scott sacrificed a lot to do it, but there wasn't a better person to have out there. When he said he was going out there and he was going to help, I knew he'd be running the show within 5 or 6 days, and I think it took him.
The second day, he was like, "My guys." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "Okay."
Oh, he was all He was all butthurt because he had to sit on top of the hill so everybody could call him and coordinate. He couldn't be down in the hole no more.
That's what I went for, was to get in there and be in my skid and do the work. And the next thing I know, I'm supervising 100+ people, and I don't even know how that happened.
What about that dude that had been on like 50 different deployments that you were talking
the guy from
about?
Mexico?
Oh yeah. Chino, man, that guy is something else. John needs to write a book on him. I've got his contact information. He has been doing this search and rescue since 1985. He's 78 years old. Dang. And he's been in over 50 countries, and most of them multiple times. Like Malaysia, during that tsunami, he was there for 3 months and ate nothing but rice. That's the only thing that could get to him out there on those islands. And he recovered thousands of bodies out there. You know, they lost 500,000 people in that tsunami.
Yeah.
That doesn't get talked about. They talked about all the tourist areas getting hit, but every one of them little islands got wiped out.
Yeah.
And he said he lost 30, 40 pounds. I'm sitting there looking at him going, I don't know where the hell you got 30 or 40 pounds from, man. That dude, he is something else, but he's like the Yoda of search and rescue, you know.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there talking to him, he talks real soft and real quiet. And I talked to a couple of groups that he was out with, and just they watched him and how he did things, and it was just amazing. He'd stand on an area and just stand there and stare at all the brush and all the piles, and then he would kind of raise up his head and look around and watch, and he said, dig there, and they'd find a body. I mean, it was incredible. Just talking to some of the people, they were just amazed by his abilities. One cool thing at the very end, he came to me and put his arm around me after that. I worked for 4 days in that creek trying to get that last one out. He was with me on that. And he came to me and he just quietly said, you know, something about how dedicated I was. You know, his English is pretty good. He speaks like 6 languages. But he told me that, you know, he was very proud of me for sticking with it and how hard I'd worked on that, and wished I'd had a better conclusion. But that on the next deployment that they get, the Mexico team that he's on, that I am more than welcome to join them wherever it is in the world.
There you go. We might lose Scott again.
And that's different because the Mexicans I used to hang out with knew how to hide bodies. I've never met one that knew how to find one.
Dean, I know you've been kind of absorbing all this from what Scott's gone through and did. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I know he was the right man for the job to be there. Ain't no doubt. That's the reason he gravitated to the position that he was in when he was there. I know it wasn't easy, but thanks again, man. I mean, appreciate everything. The families, most important, the families that got the closure for that. I mean, I can't imagine being in their position and waiting and wondering, and to have people that come flocking in. I mean, we went through that with Hurricane Harvey. That was one of the most inspiring things I saw. The people that just this army of workers that just showed up to come walk into your yard and cut your trees and pick up your trash. So it's inspiring is that humankind has that nature. And Scott is just a perfect example of how that works.
Yeah. And this is time for another awkward transition. But
that thing that you said, the limb fell on my truck. Dude cut down an oak tree, and the oak tree fell on my truck.
Oh Lord! It wasn't just a limb.
front left quarter panel, the hood a little bit, and they broke the windshield.
Yeah.
On my brand new truck.
All help is appreciated, but not all help is qualified, is what I heard.
That's right.
Yeah. Scott sent Camille to Florida to ICAST. He missed his favorite party of the year to stay out there and work.
He sure did, because you were planning on going to ICAST. But again, we can't thank Scott enough, but we can thank him. Just reach out and do what you can, because just all I want is for Scott to break even, man, from the last 3 weeks. All right, so awkward transition time. I want to get to where you were, how you did, and what you noticed, which is usually how we start this. But I want to start it with Dean, because we had a lot of FOMO this weekend, man. I guess it was Monday, no, it was Saturday, I guess, or Friday. It was Friday. You went out, did a little nearshore fishing. and absolutely crushed it. Absolutely one of those epic days you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Then you went out with Caleb. Explain.
Well, Caleb actually had a pretty good explanation for it. There were a lot of factors that played into this. Yes, within 3 days, it went from the most epic. And so the day that we were out there, it was Friday, the most kingfish I've ever caught in that amount of time in all of the trips that I've done out there. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And so Caleb has spoke about the curse of the camera. So of course, we've been planning on doing some angler use stuff. I was like, man, it's time. Comes down, and as soon as you put the cameraman in your face, it just they.
Let me interrupt you there, Dean. They say that being a fishing guide is nothing like being a regular fisherman. If you're a regular fisherman that catches fish, but a fishing guide's a different level, because then you got to take people that don't fish a lot and have them catch fish. I had no idea that just taking the guide and adding a camera to it makes it where the guide can't catch the fish. But Dean and I came up with a thing. John, let me ask you a question. Get ready to answer some questions, John.
I got you.
You're on the golf course. You're on the golf course. You tee up your golf ball.
Okay.
And you see this sucker going right down the middle, and you rear back and crank it, and that golf ball takes an unexpected turn. What do you yell?
You know what I yell?
What? What's like the golf term when your ball just goes off the wrong way?
What are we searching for here?
It's 4, and I didn't know it either.
4.
You got 4. You got 4.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Now, when it's time to put your lure out towards a fish, what do you do?
Say another F word. Yeah. So I'm sorry. What?
When it's time to put your lure out towards a fish, what do?
I say, let's go.
No, God, what is the action called?
Cast.
So
Yeah.
you got a really screwed up, didn't see that coming 4, and then you cast. That's where forecast comes from. It's Latin.
That's not true, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You're
on a roll.
Ways for that one.
You're on a roll.
It's Latin.
It's Latin.
And all of that being said, so over the from Friday to today, the wind blew, the water was off color, the blue water was not up to the shore. It was still green, it was still beautiful, but it was streaked. It just wasn't the same. So I mean, it just goes to show that fishing is the same all around the world.
But
2
the
days
wind was
later,
down when you went with Caleb.
oh, now that's another part of the story. So the forecast, man, I'm sitting there. And so well, actually there's more before that. So Sunday evening, we were all set up that Caleb was going to come down on Monday. I'm looking at the forecast. It's, man, the forecast for Monday does not look as good as Tuesday. I'm like, let's postpone. I get up Monday morning. The wind is 0.4. It was slick. It was flat. And I was like, oh man, hope I did. So then Caleb comes to town. We're sitting there. We're looking at the forecast. It's forecast 2 miles an hour from the west. Okay. I'm like, okay, I'm not too worried about that. We hit the end of the jetties this morning. There's 4-foot rollers. I don't know what the wind speed was, but it was way above the comfort zone. We're there. We're going for it. We had cameraman on the front of the boat, and I was
rocking everywhere.
How is this dude gonna? Oh, he didn't even pull the camera out of the bag for a while. He was like, and I know he was apprehensive about what he was talked into just being there. So yeah, big rollers. I mean, waves coming over the bow of the boat. And I was like, man, well, we'll see how long this lasts. Mm-hmm. For the first hour, we stuck it out. I mean, I put one line out and I just went sideways to the waves, was very careful about every move, but we were still taking every third or fourth wave over the bow. Yeah. And so it was sketchy at best. But as the day went on, after about 2 hours of that, which was pretty crazy by itself, the wind started laying down. We ended up the day with beautiful conditions. It did go flat, and there were bait balls, and we entertained ourselves with some Spanish mackerel in between. And then for the whole punchline of the story, at the 4 hours, at least 4 hours, and I went to grab the rod out of the holder to spool it up. And when I held that thing for 10 seconds, bam, kingfish hits. So we ended up landing one before the end of the day. But
See,
I was going to spool up.
Dean says we've had about enough of this. I said, I agree. We'll come back later and finish this video. And he grabs the rod and he holds it for a second. And this bewildered look comes over his face. And he looks at me and he goes, fish on.
I wasn't sure. I was in such a state of shock. I didn't know what to say or how to even react. I thought I hooked the buoy or something down there.
We caught more pelicans than we caught fish today.
Oh yeah.
Lord. Oh Lord.
We caught 2 in one cast.
2
While
pelicans.
trolling with a 20-foot deep diver. Somehow caught a pelican in the face and his buddy about 20 feet up the line.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yes. So we reeled him in
with a towel and
Well, when we reeled it in, Caleb handled the first the first pelican, and I cut the line, and he handled the second one.
What is
He's had this is how our fishing trip went. We just
He's like, hell of this. He just left.
we're just out of here.
What I'm hearing is that Caleb
Wow.
is as bad as Delaney to have on a boat. That's
It's the cameraman,
I
dog.
was sitting there, and my screen went dim because I wasn't plugged in, and my battery was fixing to die.
He was mid-sentence.
I was like, "Whoa!" It was fixing to be no sentence.
The most beautiful words I've heard all year, though, is fish on.
Fish on, son.
We got video. We got video. All right, so that was kind of one of the questions. Dean, I want to ask you, and anybody else can. Scott, I know you've been in touch with some of your people. You haven't necessarily been out on the water, but are there signs? I mean, the wind, at least for a little while, dimmed down. Went down a little bit. Are there signs? Can you read signs, or is it just a hit and miss crapshoot kind of stuff? Dean, signs that it'll be good.
Well, I'm sitting there. I was gathering all my thoughts on that one. That was a multifaceted question. Yes, there's definitely signs, and so here we had the signs later in the day. I mean, we had the birds, we had the bait balls, we had Spanish mackerel
catching birds.
blowing. Yeah, that was a lot of birds. And
you gotta hear what happens when 2 dudes haven't caught a fish for 2 hours and the drag starts screaming, and we grab rods and just start cranking them. And then about 10 seconds in, I'm like, man, them pelicans look weird, and they're coming out in the water.
They're flailing around.
they're swimming sideways.
Something was amiss.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, the signs are there, but I mean, you still got it. You drop a line in the water and you fish. I mean, and it's hard to explain how it can be so good in a short amount of time and then go so wrong. But the conditions in between then and now, pretty much dictated how why they went. And those fish, they love the blue water. They're pelagic fish for a reason. I think pelagic actually means they move a lot.
I know.
It's Latin.
It's Latin.
And so they obviously went pelagic on us.
They were pelagicing everywhere, just like the pelicans. The pelicans all of a sudden were pelagic too.
Man, well, the initial thing that got my attention was as we were leaving y'all's marina there, Dean goes, usually on a calm day you can't feel the wind, and I looked up and the palm trees are going.
Yeah, in the marina, in the harbor.
I was like, man, I'm just gonna be as positive as possible, but I think it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. But Scott, and maybe this is where you can jump in, because we've had the seaweed roll in. We've had, when it has been calm enough, terrifically blue water as Dean was out there, which I think, by the way, Dean, I think you total like 20 kingfish.
We quit counting at 20.
Yeah. Yeah. So Scott,
we quit to let the reels cool off.
That's crazy. That's absolutely nuts. So is there such a thing as signs for a good nearshore offshore season?
Well, you get a seriously good run of the calm weather little southeast, a little light southeast. Usually it involves the Gulf Stream, and one of the eddy currents breaks off the Gulf Stream, brings that really blue water in. That's when Steve a few years ago caught that sailfish at the jetties here in Port O'Connor. We had one of those. You could see down 25, 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the true indigo blue offshore water came into the jetties. That helps. The fact that we got weed lines this year should help.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
As far as cobia and dorado and all the things that hang out around those weed lines, the weed lines are full of life. And so that usually draws and kind of concentrates all the predators.
Mm-hmm.
You got a big old, I mean, that's one of the things that gets you when you clear the jetties and you look out there. It's like, man, that's a lot of water. There's a whole lot of water. And fish are pelagic, like
they're pelagic.
And they kind of wander around a little bit. Well, anything that you got that can concentrate them, riptides, watercolor changes, that's where two tides are running into each other, two different currents. Anything that's got weeds and trash floating in a line, all that'll concentrate the bait fish, which also concentrates the game fish. And so it's very similar to being in the bays, except on just a much, much bigger scale.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to really look at is see if Scott's stuck in the hill country and Caleb's in Florida. Because at that point, you just run out there and drop a lure anywhere, and it's going to be good.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that was something, and you touched on it a little bit last week, but that was a trip right there.
I didn't even bother looking
definition.
At while I was up there.
Definition of pelagic: it's used to describe fish, birds, or other organisms that live in the open sea or the zone of the ocean where they live, known as the pelagic zone. So I think that's referring to quite a big space, like Scott was saying. I mean, you go out there and oh yeah, they're in the pelagic zone. That's where we're gonna find them today.
Ain't no fences out there.
Yeah. So did you see some weed lines?
There was just little pieces of grass. There was not nothing that affected. I mean, we weren't snagging it on the trollers. It wasn't anything to cause trouble. There was just a few little patches floating around.
What are you talking about?
Jay Schull says, don't confuse the pelagic zone with the danger zone.
Hey, so Scott, I don't know if you heard last week, these guys completely took me out of context. Because we were talking
only one of us took you out of context.
We were talking about Ozzy Osbourne passing, and it got me thinking about, I have this song that I always play for my kids, heading out. You want to get cranked up, you want to get crunk, as the kids like to say. And so I was talking about Ozzy Osbourne, and I said, I play Danger Zone. Well, all of a sudden that turned into Ozzy Osbourne recorded Danger Zone.
Yeah, I heard it. I listened to some of the ones I missed on the way home. It was a long drive back pulling that skid steer.
So two things. The kids that said crunk are now 40, because I think I was one of them.
Yes.
But second, on the putt out, Dean said, I think that John actually meant like that's the song he likes on his boat. I think that he was just shifting subjects and moving on. I said, you know what? You're probably right, but we're going to screw with him anyway.
I'm just surprised you didn't play Ice Ice Baby. That's expected out of Caleb.
I was listening to Queen. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Oh boy. Boy, we transitioned well there. It's it turned into a whole different
where do we go from here?
I'll tell you where we go from here. Let's talk about real quick. You know what? Let's skip where you were, how you did, and what you noticed this week, and we can just add that to the end of the show with what would Scott, Caleb, and Dean do. So let's go here, and that is the water temps. The water temps. We've talked about it a few times, but you guys, and here's the question completely that I put together from a couple actually, and thank you to the listeners for reaching out with me with questions and such. Water temps and freshwater runoff. Now, we established not from the Guadalupe because that obviously there's dams and such but apparently Trinity and East Galveston are getting much lower salinity levels based on Lake Livingston and Lake Houston, which we know they will let water go. So the combination of rising temperatures and the salinity line, so to speak, moving in these bay systems, is it just a no-go, or how do you approach something like that? Caleb, you look like you're ready, man.
Yeah, so it ties right in with what has Caleb seen. I fished 3 days on the middle coast last couple of days, and then 1 day on the lower coast. And water temps, you better get your fish caught by 8:30 in the morning. At 8:30, they're done. From I mean, everybody hold on to your panties when I say this, but I got up at 4 a.m. 3 days straight to be at my fishing spot at 6 a.m. I didn't even know what time the sun came up until the first day. And we caught them pretty dang good until about 8:30. At 8:30, and we were in amongst a bunch of fish. And at 8:30, done. Don't even try it anymore. It's over. And then this morning at the jetties, about 9 o'clock, Dean is like, "Yep." Let me back up. Up here, the middle coast, the water temp on the flats was like 89.8 by midday. And then in the evenings, we fished a couple evenings too. It started at like 89, and then it would end the day at like 88. And then this on the flats yesterday at Dean's, what was it, 91 in a
91 degrees.
91, and then we were in 60 feet of water at the jetties, and it was 85, I think, on the surface, right?
Yes.
So I mean, general observations are my bites. We had good bites all week last week, or I don't even know, a couple of days ago. Daylight until 8:30, and then like 7:15 until dark. In between that, man, slow. Freshwater wise, man, I've just been getting away from it. Really, in Galveston Bay, and I haven't been over there fishing, so I can't speak to it a whole lot. But I'd imagine that there are just areas of the bay that are saltier than others. But what I've been doing is finding coves and pockets and creeks and back lakes and stuff that freshwater runoff isn't going in. And that's been even some of the lakes that have a bunch of freshwater in them, I could find a shoreline or something that was just greener than everything else, and just kind of staying away from the freshwater.
Yeah, Scott, this may sound crazy, but in the summertime when I was fishing, not so much where we are now, because Aransas doesn't have very much runoff at all. But even if the water temps were high, I used to kind of like when there was freshwater runoff in Sabine and Trinity, because you could go to the other side and find the saltwater line. It's easy to see. And then you kind of, even in the hot temperatures, almost no matter, and I'm interested on your thoughts on this, no matter, what time of day it was, if you could find that salinity line, they automatically stack up on that line.
And that fresh water coming in is probably a little cooler, coming out of a river and being a little deeper, and then spreading out into the bay. So it probably mitigates the high temperatures a little bit. And it's going to mix, it's going to mix in with the saltwater some. You see the hard line, but there is some mixing going on there. It's bound to help. I mean, it damn sure can't hurt. But the best thing that usually happens in the middle of the summer is a good, strong incoming tide that we get with one of these tropical disturbances. If we get that, it'll start pushing that deeper Gulf water in, and we get one of those big tide pushes and it just kind of flushes the bay. Think of it as being, it's not really stagnant this time of year, but it's not, the tides don't move as hard. We get a lot more low tides, and you get that big high tide and that big flush, and that'll rejuvenate things if we can get that. And hopefully we get that without taking on a tropical storm directly anywhere.
And couldn't agree with Scott more. The one thing that bails us out from the dog days of summer and those temperatures is tropical activity offshore. And I've said this forever. What is unfortunate for our neighbors in the Gulf, if a storm is somewhere in the Gulf, as long as it's not on your doorstep, you're going to get a push of tide. You're going to get a push, just a fresh push from Gulf water that comes in, and that always spurs some great feeding activity. And when you're kind of stuck in the doldrums, I mean, I've said the fish feel the same way about it as we do. They get lethargic, they don't eat as much, and they don't eat as often, but you get a push. And a lot of times, I mean, we get these big mega schools of reds that come from the jetties, that come from around the ferry landings, and those that get pushed onto the flats when those tides come in. It's been some of the the best days of summer have been on a storm tide.
Dean, I wanted to ask you this because that's exactly where I was going. I know Scott has a lot of experience with this as well. What about even if it is a little windy and you don't want to go, near shore or offshore or whatever? A lot of people, when it's hot like that and the water temps are up in the bay systems, they fish the protected side of jetties. How much of a difference does the water temp make there? Is that a sound plan?
I mean, the water temperature is going to be the same on both sides. I mean, it's not enough distance to be a big temperature difference. But what I do when the winds are lighter is fish deeper water. You fish the drop offs. I'm looking for 4 to 6 feet of water along the edges of channels, just access to deeper water. Which, I mean, I saw a question, maybe it was in the rundown of where do these fish go? It was like, I've been catching them on the flats. I've been catching them in the back lakes. I've been catching them in the shallows. Boom, 1 week later, they are gone. And then the question at the end of it was, where do they go? Well, by process of elimination, you know where they're not at. They're not in the flats. They're not on the shallows. So you go to the next stage. You go, well, where could they be? Well, they're in the channels. They're on the edges of the flats. And the past, which the wind has just stopped here. I mean, we kind of quit talking about the wind because it hasn't been a subject for maybe about less than 2 weeks now. But the wind has kept me off of that deeper water, and especially in Redfish Bay, because the wind was blowing straight from the south. So it kind of eliminated a lot of my favorite spots. But the edge, like the Lydia Ann Channel, the drop-offs around Ransom Island, Dagger Flats, around the Corpus Christi Ship Channel, those spoil islands, that's where I try, or I want to spend more time when I'm stuck in the heat of summer.
Yeah. All right, let's go here. One more big topic here that I know, and my question at the end of it when I sent it to you guys is, will it mean anything? And we know Louisiana is a different world, different approach, let's put it that way, to fishing. But the Louisiana, and I know Caleb and Scott have probably been there most recently, the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Department released a bycatch study this week. And to me, it was pretty alarming. And my question is it going to mean anything? Is it going to resonate, so to speak? Let me just read a little bit of it for our listeners, because I was like, wow, if they don't do something now, will they ever? So 22,000 mature redfish, which is the most productive breeding stock, reportedly are killed annually by the bycatch, by the industry, so to speak, the bait industry. More than 240,000 speckled trout they found in the 1 to 2 year range, which is obviously breeders, so to speak, were killed as well in bycatch. The Manhattan industry had killed more than 80 million croaker, 24 million sand trout. An additional 45 species were documented in the bycatch totals. And, obviously, game fish like redfish and speckled trout clearly were affected. 22,000, they said on there, 240,000 speckled trout. Scott, I'm going to start with you. And Caleb, I know you know a lot of friends. You have a lot of friends over there. We had Joe Azell, and he's very much anti, Manhattan and the bycatch and all that. But Scott, this has got to, I mean, if this were happening right now, we'd be talking in Texas, or in Florida, we'd be going nuts. You think Louisiana is going to finally resonate?
I'm just surprised that they released that study. Honestly, I really am. I'm very surprised that they released it. I'm not surprised that they got the study. I'm just surprised they put it out there in the public. That Menhaden industry over there is ridiculous. And they're supposed to stay a certain amount of distance off the shorelines and off the beach, and repeatedly they break that. They break it all the time. I get reports from over there constantly that they're well inside the line. I don't even remember what the line is, but they come right on the beach. And the problem is, Menhaden that's kind of the base of the food chain on the beachfront. And everything that eats a Menhaden is in there trying to eat them in their giant schools. And what they're using to catch these is those purse seines and it's purse seining is basically two big ships with a net between them. You know, think of when you used to go seine a pond.
Yeah.
You had your buddy on one end, you were on the other, and you seined. That's what they're doing on a gigantic scale. But they're also using airplanes and spotter planes to find these giant schools in Menhaden, and then they encircle them, and everything that's in there, along with them, everything that's feeding on them gets caught up in that, which is bull reds, tarpon. They don't mention tarpon in there, but I guarantee you tarpon are in there. I've had buddies of mine that guide over there that have sent me videos where they follow a trail that's just miles and miles and miles long of bull reds floating belly up, and that have been caught in the nets and then turned loose. So you can't be doing anything good for the fishery. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
It's got to be hurting it really bad. But there's big money in it, and somebody's getting paid off somewhere over in Louisiana. That's, it's been the way Louisiana's been forever.
Yeah.
There's all kind of corruption in their politics and their government, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if those guys don't have their hands out and they're getting some payola to allow this to continue. There was some legislation that went over in the last few years where they were trying to cut it out, and it got squashed.
Yeah.
Every other state has stopped them. All up and down the East Coast, they've stopped it. And the real kicker is these Menhaden boats are generally foreign boats. They're not U.S. It's not a U.S. Deal. It's out of the country that's coming over here and doing that. And they do it for the fish oils. Fish oils become a huge deal in the marketplace, and that's why they do it. Is Menhaden is a really oily fish. That's why they're so plentiful and so good for all the fish that feed on them, because they're high in protein and the fish oils.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a market for it, so they're going to keep doing it. And as long as Louisiana allows it to happen, that there's no stopping to it. Hopefully this little survey or study that they put out, maybe it opens some eyes to it, and finally they step in and do what the other states have done.
Well, Caleb, that is a perfect transition to you. You've kind of been boots on the ground in Louisiana a lot the last few years. Is it resonating with guides and fishermen, and or do you think, like Scott, I'm just surprised that they even released the study?
It's it's just like anywhere else. It depends on what guide and what his mindset is. I talked to Joe for an hour out at ICAST, and he was very much like, hey, I'm glad this is going to help. This is something we need. Other guys are, oh my God, how am I going to feed my family? It's the same sort of thing. And I mean, before we went to the short limits over here in Texas, before we went to the 3 trout, and frankly, get mad at me if you want, I wish we go to 1 redfish. But it was before that. I've said it multiple times on Facebook. I've said it multiple times on here, YouTube, whatever. If you don't regulate yourself, eventually the state's going to come in and regulate you. So when that happens, when these studies come out, whenever all that happens, and it does get cut back, maybe it's on you.
Yeah.
But Scott and Joe and I and a lot of the Louisiana guys, we're going to say the same thing about the pogie boats. That's terrible. And frankly, after the study came out after the freeze here in 21, and we found out that East Matagorda Bay had lost 103 trout in the freeze.
I don't let that go.
I don't know if these numbers aren't a little bit.
They might be low.
They might be a little bit low.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the guide. Some of them are happy that the guide limits got taken out. Other ones probably aren't so happy about it.
Well, one of the things with that 22,000 mature redfish, we're talking about big bull reds, and that's your only breeders. Redfish don't breed until they reach about 30 inches, and then they move offshore. Those are the ones that those boats are picking up and killing. So let's just take 22,000 bull redfish out of the breeding stock, and what's that going to do to the inshore?
Yeah.
It can't help it. It's got to cut down on all the breeding. And those fish, I mean, some of those fish are, 15, 20, 30 years old. And you're just wiping them all out all at once. That's what happened here. The same thing with the purse seiners. That's when the blackened redfish craze came along way back in the late 70s, early 80s. And that's what cratered our redfish populations here. And that's why we have hatcheries. That's why CCA's around. That's why Save the Redfish happened, making them not a commercial catch anymore. Was they were using purse seines and going out there and targeting these giant schools of breeding fish on the beachfronts, because we've all seen them. We've seen the 1,000 redfish, 2,000 redfish, 10,000 redfish swimming in one big school out there in the breeding schools. And they were spotting them by plane, running those purse seines out there the same way they're doing these pogies and encircling them. And they were wiping out every redfish that was out there, every one of the breeders. And that's what crashed the redfish population to begin with. So
Dean, I know you have some thoughts on this, even though you not necessarily have been in Louisiana lately.
Well, when Caleb was here, and we were reading that and talking about it, he was telling me that he had seen it, and he was explaining the process. If you actually want to see it, I went to YouTube and did a little search on pogie boats, how they work, and you can watch it. I mean, there's videos in action. There is kind of like company, the boats that show what they're doing. They don't show the bycatch, of course, but then there are other people that have posted their videos of the pogie boats that are out of their designated areas, where there's just mega schools of redfish, where these guys are fishing on these big schools of reds, and these dudes are setting their nets on those pogies right there with the redfish. So it was an eye-opening situation to sit there and watch it on YouTube, the videos that are available, to see exactly what's happening. But it's a lot of money. And that was another thing, it goes, what they use that oil for is in hundreds of products. So the demand for it is huge. The money, I would imagine, is huger. And how do you limit that process, much less stop it? I mean,
but people adapt. It's been, as they were talking about, it's been shut down other places and they've adapted.
People need their omega-3 fish oil pills. It's in makeup, medicine, just every aspect that you could possibly imagine. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing.
It's going to be a challenge if they're accepting it and they're allowing it to continue on their coast, where it's not allowing on other coasts. They're going to pay the price in the long run. Yeah,
they will. And I'll tell you one thing that just warmed my heart. What I got out of that comment there, Dean, is you and Caleb actually read the rundown. You were actually talking about it.
We had a whole meeting about it.
My God, This is a monumental day. On the boat, they were reading my rundown.
Now we were sitting here, right here at my computer where we were last night, and it was kind of, I did it as a funny joke. I was like, hey, I was like, I'm gonna actually what I said. I said, I'm gonna read them to you.
He did say that. He was trying to distract me from me showing him my fly tying expertise.
Yeah, I saw that video too. I saw that. Man, I think I'm kind of tearing up here, man. You guys actually read the rundown.
Sentimental.
He goes from calling me a pot licker to being proud of me in one show.
That's how it usually works. Like you were saying the other day, that's how you know you're a friend, when you can do stuff like that. All right, so we're going to combo the where you were, what you saw, what you did, and what you picked up on with what would Scott, Caleb, and Dean do. I'm going to start with Caleb, but I do want to say this. Dean has got more pressure on him this weekend than he's ever felt in his entire life, ever. School, work, fishing.
I've been praying for rain for 3 months. I'm going to fall down on my knees with the Bible tonight.
The reason is, I don't know how this even started, but
weakness.
yours is weakness for sure. But the fact that my wife, who hasn't been fishing but 2.5, 3 years at the most, Carrie, Dean's better half, and my daughter, who fished a week and a half ago for the first time in 2 years, decided to enter hotties on the harbor. And oh, by the way, how about Dean take us out there? Because I sure as hell didn't want to. And so they said, so you got a couple of 60-year-old women and my daughter.
Oh, whoa.
Or whatever it is. Couple of, yeah, maybe I need to edit that out. I know Carrie's gonna be mad. Couple of 45-year-old women and my daughter who hasn't fished in a while. So I want to act like that just happened organically there out on the tournament. So I'll let you sort of think about that aspect of what would you do, Dean. But Caleb, how'd you do? What'd you see? And what would you do? The water is going to, at least the forecast, as you put it, is that the water will lay down a little bit.
The first 4 letters is something bad going on. I'm just throwing, and it ties right in there with the fishing. Man, like I said earlier, it kind of pick what you want to do, but early in the morning, late in the evening. Personally, Cade and I are going offshore tomorrow to catch chicken dolphin. You were talking about weed lines earlier. Apparently, they're about 30 miles out, and so that's what we're electing to go do.
That's a good strategy if the wind's down. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here. Let's put it all into perspective. I went down yesterday afternoon to do a trout and redfish video on the flats with Dean, and we fished late in the evening until dark, and the results dictated the title of the video to be why we're going king fishing in the summer. It was a brutal grind out there. So the deeper water, and I think I could be wrong. It could just be the forecast, but the surf's supposed to look pretty good kind of up and down the coast this weekend. The West Galveston surf on Surfline looked better than the Matagorda surf.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the weekend, the surf looks a little bit better. So if you can get out there, that would be my suggestion. And it's hot and tough right now.
All right, Scott, I'm going to let you. Dean is still marinating on how he's going to approach this weekend. But Scott, when I was in Sabine, I used to call this short rig season. Head out to those little 9-mile, 7-mile rigs and see what I could find. Maybe that's an option. But what else would you be thinking this weekend?
That Wednesday's like it's been, hit the surf for trout.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my go-to. Be there at daylight and throwing top waters on the first gut, second gut, and once the sun gets up a little bit, then go offshore. Head to the beachfront and spend some time looking for weed lines and cobia and triple tail and tarpon, all the different things that cruise up and down the beach. I'm going to be taking. Remember Mr. David McWilliams? It was at the event there with Chuck Nizer and our young man that makes lures.
The Frenzy Lures.
Dylan, David got a hold of me yesterday and asked me if I was free for Saturday. And David's being roped into taking his daughter and her friends out dolphin watching on their boat. And apparently Dylan's not really big into dolphin watching. And
good
he
for him.
Fish. So David's going to put him on my boat. So me and David are going to go out. And we're going to have us a good time.
Nice.
We're going to go out there and we're going to see what we find and just go have fun catching jacks or bull reds or we're going to throw some stuff, see what happens, see what eats.
Yeah. Dean?
Well, I'm going to do exactly what Scott's doing. We're going to go out there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to see what we can catch. Hopefully it rains and the tournament gets canceled.
I'm looking at the forecast, Dean. It ain't nothing but sunshine balls on there.
Man, come on. But so in this tournament, we have a chance. I always feel like
you're entered, so that's a chance. I mean, you can buy a lotto ticket too.
We got a chance in the raffle.
That's right.
Buy extra tickets. But so it's a big fish contest. So it's one big red for the whole team or your biggest trout. So trout closest to 20 inches, very doable. And if you can get that one redfish, that upper slot, 27 plus incher, I mean, you're in the game. But what I'm doing is I'm sticking to my game. We're going to be competing against all of the croaker chokers and the dead bait and everything else that goes with it. But we're sticking with lures, man. We're sticking with plastic. We're going to do it our way. I got confidence. I mean, Jan is good. She might be, you got to give her more credit. She's somewhat new to the game, but she's got skills. She has learned from the best. Carrie is she's a nutcase up on the front of that boat, man. I mean, if the boat is parked, she is throwing. And she's even tells me, she's like, I don't want to hear none of your guide talk. She's like, is the boat moving or not? Because I'll start to tell her what I'm thinking. She's like, is the boat moving or am I fishing? So, and Leah
does a good job. I got to tell you, I took her out and she was on it.
As sarcastic as I have been, I mean, I got faith in these ladies. So
Bill's asking where her invite is. She's a ringer. Yeah,
she is a ringer.
Yeah. Look, I've gone too far with this program already.
Keep in mind though, Dean, I'm entering.
Will give you a hard time or what?
I 4 flinging hooks. There's no place for me to hide.
Keep in mind though, Dean, it's just one fish, one trout, one red, but I'm entering all the side pots
and the side, and so it's like a fundraiser tournament. It's not a big money prize. You win a trophy, but the money is in the side pots, so you can bet. And like I said, I'm betting on the other guys.
But see, that throws it all off, because the secret is you don't ever enter the big fish side pot, because that guarantees you're going to catch a big fish and it helps the stringer. So I don't know how to work this whole situation where you want the side pot and not the stringer. Hey, if anybody's going to be around Marble Falls this weekend, I'm going to be up there at the Formula One boat races. I don't know if I get to drive the rescue boat or just ride on it or whatever. But I think I'm going to take my mid-tower up there, and we're going to play around in the lake. If anybody wants JH mid-tower rides, we'll be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Just come hang out. I've never been to one. I hear it's a heck of a party. They've been inviting me for years. And if you're around Marble Falls, come hang out this weekend.
Good deal. Great show. Scott, glad to have you back out on the water. Have you been out yet or no?
No, I've been trying to catch up. Been working on the skid steer, trying to get it started again. Just all that good stuff.
Well, let's get the Bite Me family, the Bite Me community in on that, and let's get Scott going again on all those fronts. You guys, definitely it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm going to be out on the water, but I can't be on you can only have one captain on the boat, so I'm going to be maybe trailing them, taking pictures and videos, et cetera, of the escapade is what I'll call it. Don't forget to book these guys as much as you can. Dean, you got something?
You keep your distance. you keep your distance away from us.
I won't be pot licking. That's Caleb's job. All right. So you guys really appreciate it. Fun show. Great to have the whole gang back. Don't forget to subscribe as always. And you guys definitely appreciate it. Book my fellas if you can. It's going to be a blast. You're going to have all these stories, and definitely try to catch some redfish, probably catch some redfish, catch some fish all together. Go ahead, Scott.
That's one thing I wanted to get. Dean and I have talked about this. There's this misconception that we're totally booked up.
Yes.
We're always just solid booked. And everybody that books me, everybody that calls me says, I know you're probably booked, but can you squeeze me in August? Can you squeeze me in September? Mm-hmm. Ain't a lot of squeezing going on. I mean, apparently the misconception of us being booked all the time keeps us from getting booked all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's
I wish I was as busy as everybody thought I was.
Well, let's take care of that. That's a good way to do it. And don't forget, I haven't even mentioned this, but get to the Facebook group page and get your tickets for the Feeding Frenzy. We'll have more information on this next week. Raffle tickets are there. RSVP, we are already over 200, but you can still RSVP for just $15. And of course, we'll take care of you. It's coming up fast, man. I'm already going to start picking up some gear for all the auctions and stuff here in the next week or two. So you guys have a great week, great weekend. We will definitely have a lot to talk about next week. I can guarantee you that, one way or the other. Catch them up. We will talk to you next time.
Fish on.